Good afternoon. So, as we were discussing yesterday about the classification of sedatives and hypnotics, yesterday I told you benzodiazepines would be divided into long acting, short acting, and ultra short acting. So, I've given an example for each of those subclasses, long acting being diazepam, short acting being oxazepam, and ultra short acting being midazolam. Okay, so they work for 1 to 2 days and half a day to 1 day and less than 6 hours respectively. All right, diazepam being the longest and midazolam being the shortest. There are a few newer agents that are given nowadays as well, specifically melatonin and its congeners. Now you know melatonin is responsible for the maintenance of your wake sleep cycle, or basically your what do you call circadian rhythm, right? So if you give melatonin to a patient, there is a very good chance that they will sleep without a lot of side effects. Okay, so is something called Z hypnotics. These are newer drugs which Z hypnotics is specifically used for sedation to cause sleepiness, but it will not have any effect on anxiety. Generally, if when we studied about you haven't studied about anxiety, but diazepam is also used as an anti-anxiety drug. Okay, these drugs which are coming under sedatives and hypnotics, some of them can also be given as anti-anxiety drugs for patients who have anxiety, psychotic disorders. All right, we'll get to that in the next chapter. But Z hypnotics is one that is specifically only for sleep rather than for anti-anxiety. It will not function anything on anxious patients. Then we have barbiturates. Now, one thing you need to know is barbiturates are relatively dangerous drugs and they're not used as much nowadays. Even though some spots in India they do use it, phenobarbital and pentobarbital, but it is highly recommended that you do not use them because you have better alternatives. Benzodiazepines are far more better compared to barbiturates, specifically considering that they are narrow therapeutic index drugs. Like barbiturates are narrow therapeutic index drugs and all of that. We'll get into the details. Another thing is that, see, sedatives and hypnotics are primarily given for insomnia, for people who are not able to sleep. Or sedative dose and hypnotic dose. Hypnotic dose will be slightly higher than sedative dose. Okay, sedatives are mainly given for insomnia. Now, insomnia can be of two types: so primary insomnia or secondary insomnia. Primary insomnia is non-attributable in the sense that we do not know the exact cause of primary insomnia. We just know that the patient is not able to sleep. Okay, insomnia literally means lack of sleep. So the primary type of insomnia is a condition in which the patient is not able to sleep, but we do not know the exact cause of it. Whereas in secondary insomnia, you know there is some clinical condition, underlying condition. It might be stress, it might be drug induced, it might be because of lack of physical activity or a lot of physical activity very close to the hours of sleeping. So if you start doing exercise around, what do you call, let's suppose you sleep at 10 p.m. in the night and you start exercising around at 9 o'clock and something, your body will be very excited and ready to go. It will not be ready to sleep. Okay, so things like that. Or it might be sometimes in some patients because of lack of physical activity, it will cause hormonal changes where like proper physical activity, no physical activity. In that sense, what will happen is some patients will have insomnia, right? Because they're simply not tired enough. Right. Now, in general, hypnotics are those drugs that will have quicker action, but the duration for which they work is short. Okay, the dose will be much more steeper. The dose response curve will be much more steeper. So the effect that you get with the dose will be very steep and very quick. That is why they'll be like an outburst. Okay, whenever we are giving a hypnotic dose of a drug, it will be a very steep curve in the sense that it will work very quickly and it will get burned out very quickly. So the duration for which it will work is very, very short. Whereas a sedative, it will be slower acting. It will work for a very long period of time. For long, like for example, diazepam. If you're taking a sedative dose of diazepam, it will work for almost over a day. So that's a very long acting kind of sedative. All right, and the dose response curve will be much more flatter in that sense. Now, coming to benzodiazepines, the first class, the pharmacological effects that you will generally see, or the main actions that you will see with BZDs, they're also called BZDs. Okay, so benzodiazepines, main actions that you will see, I will explain the mechanism of action as well. Main actions that you see are sedation or hypnosis, either way you put it. If you increase the dose slightly, you will get hypnosis. You will have anxiolytic effect, anti-anxiety effect. Okay, decreases anxiety, anesthetic effect, or anesthesia, put it another way. Remember, in balanced anesthesia, I told you if you give a dose of diazepam before performing surgery, the requirement of anesthetic dose will decrease, right? Because this fellow is causing sedation. It will cause muscle relaxation. It will cause an anticonvulsant effect or anticonvulsant effect, and it will cause amnesia. Okay, the patient will not be able to remember when they took the drug. These are the main actions that you will get when you give a PZD like diazepam. Diazepam is a very ideal kind of what do you call, benzodiazepine. Another thing is that other than these, they will have some effects on your CVS and your GIT as well. So on your CVS, they will decrease BP, they will increase heart rate, they will decrease gastric acid secretion, so digestion will slow down. Acid secretion, that is why it is given as a pre-anesthetic. Okay, you want gastric acid secretion to be as minimal as possible. If possible, completely it should not occur, right? Especially if you are going for a long surgery. In such senses, what will happen is the patient's body will not know that you are undergoing surgery. All it knows is that a certain time has passed by, and the body needs to secrete acid so that in preparation for the patient to eat food. Okay, your body does not know that you are undergoing surgery. So to trick your body in a way, you can give something like a diazepam as a pre-anesthetic so that it will take care of that acid. Okay, you do not want acid spilling around when you are performing surgery because of aspirating problems and all of that. It will cause respiratory depression at high doses. These are all the secondary effects of benzodiazepines other than the primary effects which I've mentioned here. All right. Other than this, it will cause these as well. It will decrease BP, increase heart rate, and all of that. Now, coming to the mechanism of action of benzodiazepines, as I told you earlier as well, benzodiazepines will work by acting on GABA receptors, specifically GABA A receptors. Okay, so if I write the mechanism of action as a flow chart, benzodiazepine will literally bind to GABA A receptor. I'll just write A small, that is a subscript. Okay, I'm not able to write in subscript, that is why I'm writing that way. GABA A receptors. Okay, when they attach to GABA A receptors, they will basically think of it this way: they will make the receptor more attractive to GABA. Okay, think of it in another way of putting it is, let's suppose you have a small cage and you want to trap honeybees in that. Okay, for example, you want to trap honeybees, or you want to trap a mouse in that. Okay, easier to understand. You have a small trap and you want to trap a mouse in that. What you do is you will what you call, put something that the mouse likes to eat, right? Some food item or something like that, in a way that it trails into the trap. All right, you'll make a path so that it will trail into the trap, and once the mouse enters the trap, you shut the door down so that you have trapped the mouse. Now, in this way, what benzodiazepine do is they will make the receptor more attractive for GABA. What happens is whenever benzodiazepine acts on the GABA receptor, GABA A receptor specifically, GABA, the neurotransmitter GABA, will start seeking out GABA receptor even more aggressively, and it will come and bind to GABA. Because of this, what will happen is, right, it will cause increased frequency of chlorine channel opening. Chlorine channel opening, because more and more amount of GABA is coming and attaching to what do you call, the receptor, the amount of chlorine channels that are opening, that will increase. See, whenever there is GABA on a neuron, so let's suppose there is this neuron, okay, and the neuron has a receptor, GABAergic receptor here, and GABA comes and attaches to this receptor. What will happen is this receptor will give way, it will open, and it will open in such a way that it will allow chlorine ions to go inside. If you remember yesterday, I told you influx of chlorine will cause hyperpolarization. It will basically make the potential more negative. You want your potential at 55 millivolts for action potential to occur. if you want what do you call messages to be sent, if you want transmission to occur, nerve transmission, impulse transmission to occur, you want your membrane potential to be around minus 55 millivolts. Anything less than that, you will not have action potential. Okay, here when I'm sending chlorine, keep in mind that chlorine is a negative molecule. If I send chlorine inside, this minus 55 will become more negative, so it will go towards minus 70, or it will go towards what do you call your threshold potential. Sorry, it will go towards your resting potential, threshold potential being minus 55. All right, that is where your threshold is reached and you have an action potential. It will go towards resting potential. Anything below 55, so if I have even minus 56 millivolts, I will not be able to generate a action potential. That is what GABA does. Okay, so see, in what do you call epileptics, when we studied about epileptics, I told you that if there is excessive amount of action potential transmission, someone will have a seizure, right? That is in case there is excess impulse transmission. If suppose I give it in a person who has normal impulse transmission, what will happen? It will decrease the amount of impulses that are being transmitted. That is why sedation occurs. See, if there is something, let's suppose I put it in a diagrammatic form like this. Let's suppose this is the normal level of what do you call action potential that is supposed to be reached. Let's suppose this is 0. If I take it over a graph, let's suppose this is 0, and this is the baseline where uh, yeah, let's suppose this is the baseline where your potentials have to cross to enter seizure territory, meaning whenever it is crossing this point, seizures are occurring, meaning a lot of what do you call action potentials are being formed, when which is when seizures are occurring. In this case, if I give a benzodiazepine, it will bring this threshold back to normal, and let's suppose this is normal. Okay, so this is normal. All right, this is excessive where seizures are occurring. I'm abbreviating it as S. All right, if you are at normal potential, or normal number of potentials, or normal number of impulses are being transmitted, you will not have any seizures. Okay, your body will be normal. In such a case, if I give benzodiazepine, what will happen? The patient is already normal, and let's suppose I'm giving benzodiazepine, they will go into sedation. Okay, they will have their nervous system will underperform. Basically, the number of impulses that are being sent, that will be less than normal, because of which sedation and hypnosis occurs. Okay, that is the mechanism behind benzodiazepines. I hope you understood the mechanism here. One second. If you want me to repeat, please let me know. Right. So increased frequency of chlorine channel opening will basically cause hyperpolarization of your membrane. So hyperpolarization occurs. Because of hyperpolarization, it will depress your synaptic transmission. So you will have depression in synaptic transmission. Okay, if there is depression in synaptic transmission, you will have overall CNS depression. That is where sedation comes into picture. Okay, I hope you understood the mechanism here. Benzodiazepines will basically decrease the number of potentials being thrown out. In anxiety, or in something like epilepsy, where there are excessive number of action potentials being thrown out, if you give benzodiazepines, it will bring it back to normal. If you give it in a normal patient who does not have any anxiety disorder, or who does not have any epileptic disorder, it will cause sedation in such patients. Okay, uh, or to put it another way, let's suppose, think of an example of sleeping pills. Okay, let's suppose I have sleeping pills, are basically literally the same thing. But if I have a sleeping pill, and I let's suppose I have a patient who is not able to sleep properly, they are only able to sleep around 2 hours a night or something like that. Okay, 2 or 3 hours a night, and they are going to a doctor and getting sleeping pills. Okay, because they take these sleeping pills, let's suppose they are able to sleep for around 6-7 hours. Okay, that is because their CNS is being depressed. Now, if I give it in a normal patient, in the sense that who does not have insomnia, who already sleeps around 7 to 8 hours a day, okay, 7 to 8 hours in the night, if I give a benzodiazepine in such a patient, it will cause over sedation, in the sense that the patient will start sleeping for 10 hours or 12 hours or 13 hours. Okay, that is the difference. I hope you are understanding the logic here. So that is the mechanism behind benzodiazepines. Someone's audio is on, please. Right. So coming to the effects of benzodiazepines. Now, where all it is used is, benzodiazepines can be used in insomnia. So if I write BZD's uses, you can use it in insomnia when a patient is not able to sleep. You can use it in anxiety. You can use it for muscle relaxation. If a patient's muscles are very stiff, you can use these. You can use them in convulsions. Okay, in all of these conditions, benzodiazepines are an excellent choice. Okay. Coming to adverse effects of these benzodiazepines, you will have lethargy, you will have drowsiness. Lethargy is basically laziness in a way. Okay, it is clinical laziness, in the sense that the patient will not be motivated enough to do anything, and they will be very, very, very tired. Okay, that is lethargy. Drowsiness. Avoid driving completely. Whenever you give a patient benzodiazepine, please make sure to tell them to not deal with any heavy machinery, to not do anything that requires a lot of focus, something like what you call driving or things like that. Okay, where it can be dangerous if they are on benzodiazepines, because these will cause hypnosis. There are chances that the patient, see, even if you take a benzodiazepine at night, there are chances that the patient will have drowsiness during the day, because the drug will last in your body for a long enough time. It can cause drowsiness and sedation during the day. Sometimes it will also cause weakness. It will cause reaction time prolongation. The reflexes will become slower. It will cause disorientation and ataxia. And in some patients, it will cause amnesia. They'll not be able to remember what happened. Okay, so this is about your benzodiazepines. Coming to the next class, barbiturates. It pretty much does the same thing, but there is a slight difference. The difference being that, see, this barbiturate will also act on your GABA receptor, but here it will increase the duration of chlorine channel opening. So it increases the duration of chlorine channel opening. Okay, why is this important? Agar let's suppose whenever my what do you call this thing, action potential, or whenever the potential of my membrane is going from depolarization to repolarization to hyperpolarization, refractory period, then again threshold is reached and I'm going into another action potential. uh, if you're not understanding this, I would strongly suggest that you go to your physiology textbook, you open your physiology textbook and read how action potentials are transmitted. Okay, without that it will be very hard to understand this chapter altogether. So coming back to our discussion, uh, in this case, whenever you have a drug which is, or your membrane which is going from depolarization to repolarization, hyperpolarization, during hyperpolarization you have chlorine channels that are opening, and that is when chlorine will rush in. Okay, barbiturates will do one thing where they will keep those gates open for a longer period of time, meaning your cells will stay in hyperpolarization for a longer period of time. Or to put it another way, this fellow can induce hyperpolarization, uh, what do you call, in a very aggressive manner, in the sense that it can artificially or forcefully cause hyperpolarization. If there is hyperpolarization, the what do you call, impulse will not be transmitted to the next segment. Okay, to put it one way, let's suppose there is a neuron like this. Okay, whenever there is action potential, let's suppose this is the threshold say it will go into depolarization, repolarization, यहाँ से hyperpolarization होने लगता, यहाँ पर से this is hyperpolarization phase, and from here on out till here you have repolarization where membrane potential is going back to normal. Until and unless it reaches threshold again, you will not have another action potential. Okay, action potential is a none, all or none response. Until and unless you reach a minimum threshold of -55, you will not have an action potential again like this. Okay, what your barbiturates do is they will force your neuron to stay in hyperpolarization. by opening those chlorine gates and keeping them open for a longer period of time. Okay, because of this, what will happen is impulse transmission does not occur. Your what you call membrane potential will go lower if it is staying, if those channels are remaining open for a longer period of time. This will go deep, it will go way close to minus 70 millivolts, and it will be much more harder for your neuron to get back to minus 55. That is what barbiturates do. All right, I hope you understood the mechanism of action. All right, now, to put it another way, it will basically increase the lifetime of chlorine channel opening. Okay, it will increase the duration for which this chlorine channel is open, because of which more chlorine can come inside. Instead of, let's suppose, 10 molecules which are normal, this time 20 or 30 or 40 molecules are coming inside, because of which your uh, neuron will be in a hyperpolarized state for a longer period of time, wherein you will not have impulse being transmitted to the next segment of your neuron, meaning you will have sedation. Your CNS is not being active, which will cause sedation. All right. I hope you understood the mechanism behind this. If you have doubts, please let me know. This can be a little confusing.
Sir, can you please repeat once more?
अच्छा, ठीक है. याजिक एक्शन पोटेंशियल्स कैसा काम करते पता है? क्या हुआ? नहीं, I'm asking so that you want me to repeat action potential as well. That is why I'm asking.
No, sir.
You don't know. You
No.
want me to repeat action potential as well. Okay. Whenever क्या बोलते हैं, impulse is transmitted from one neuron to the other. Let's suppose this is a presynaptic neuron and this is a postsynaptic neuron, the dendrite of a postsynaptic neuron. यहाँ से impulse is being transmitted. Okay, for example, let's suppose you touch something. Okay, I'm sure near wherever you are sitting there is a desk, and find a pen or any surface where you can touch. Okay, as soon as you touch, you'll be able to feel the surface. Right, this is because as soon as you touch, impulses are transmitted through your sensory neurons. These sensory neurons will sense that there is something here, and they will send the information to your sensory cortex in your brain. This transfer of information happens in the form of electrical impulses, which are called action potentials. Okay, यहाँ पर these are transmitted in a neuron using electricity, and in between neurons using special chemicals called neurotransmitters. These action potentials will go and activate these vesicles which will contain these neurotransmitters. These neurotransmitters will come and attach to the neuron membrane, the membrane of your axon terminal, and these what do you call neurotransmitters get released here, and they will attach to a receptor here on the dendrite. As soon as they attach to the receptor here, which correlates to the neurotransmitter, the main excitatory neurotransmitter being glutamate. So let's suppose glutamate is the one that is coming out and attaching to this receptor. Okay, this attachment will cause a potential to be generated. Okay, this is not action potential, but this is a barely threshold potential. Until and unless this potential gets accumulated, meaning several neurotransmitters will come and attach, and the amount of potential gets accumulated to a point where the membrane potential, see, resting membrane potential is minus 70 millivolts, meaning at rest your neuron will be at this potential. For you to have an action potential passing through, you need this resting potential to come down to minus 55 millivolts, or come up to minus 55 millivolts. To put it another way, it is basically going more positive or going more towards zero. Okay, in between there, if it is reaching minus 55, that is when action potential will occur. Wherein at your axon hillock, what will happen is, if it is reaching minus 55, immediately you will have an action potential. So you will have a depolarization phase, you will have repolarization phase, you will have a hyperpolarization phase, and you will have a refractory period. Again, in the refractory period, if it is reaching minus 55, another action potential occurs. Okay, here in between segment to segment, so imagine this is a node of Ranvier, the line which I've drawn here is a node of Ranvier, and here is another node of Ranvier. Your action potential will literally jump from segment to segment. That is why the action potential performs a saltatory motion, a jumping motion. Okay, so ये transmit होने के, this is how normal transmission occurs. What benzodiazepines do is, they will cause, or in the sense what barbiturates do is, let's suppose there is your GABA channel here which is causing chlorine channel to open. Okay, this is the GABAergic receptor through which chlorines can go inside. Okay, if a lot of chlorine goes inside, what will happen is this minus 55 millivolts will go more towards minus 70, and it will stay to in minus 70 for a longer period of time. If it is staying there, even if you get initial action potential, you will not be able to propagate it to the next segment, or you might not even be able to attain the first action potential altogether. Okay, that is what barbiturates do. I hope you understood the logic here. It will basically make the membrane way more negative than it needs to be for action potential to occur. Okay, action potential होने के लिए -55 कैसा भी रहना. If a lot of chlorine is going inside because of barbiturates, barbiturates will basically keep the gate open for a longer period of time, so that more and more chlorine can go inside. Okay, it will increase the lifetime of chlorine channel, because of which more chlorine will go in, and this minus 55 millivolts will go more negative, and it'll take a long time for your neuron to come back to minus 55. A lot of potentials from here, or not a lot of neurotransmitters from here needs to come and get attached. Okay, that is where your barbiturate will come in. All right, अब समझ में आया?
Yes, sir.
पक्का?
Yes, sir.
अच्छा ठीक है. What about the others? If you didn't understand any other part, please let me know. See, these are dangerous drugs because they have a very narrow therapeutic index, in the sense that what happens is at higher doses. See, narrow therapeutic index का मतलब क्या है? The difference between their normal dose and their toxic dose is very less. For example, let's suppose I talk about a normal drug which has a very wide therapeutic index. Okay, we discussed about therapeutic indexes in general pharmacology, but if just to remind you, if I have a drug, let's suppose whose normal dose is around 70 mg, okay, and toxic dose is around 300 mg, okay, this is a very wide range. I have a play area of 230 mg, okay, where I will get therapeutic effect, but I will not get toxic effect, or at least the patient will not die. Okay, at very high doses, there is a very good chance that the patient will die. The more higher you go, the more chances of side effects there are. Okay, so even if I give 150, which is around double of that, a little over double, I'm still nowhere close to 300. This is a wide therapeutic index drug. Okay, it has a very big range. Whereas if I give something like morphine or barbiturates, so imagine the normal dose is 1 mg and the toxic dose is 2 mg, or the toxic dose is 3 mg, meaning I have a very narrow window. If I give a dose which is slightly higher than normal, the patient will die. Okay, that is a narrow therapeutic index drug. Okay, barbiturates are drugs which have a very low therapeutic index. At higher doses, they will directly mimic GABA rather than stimulating GABA. They will directly mimic GABA. They will act like GABA, and they will what you call engage the receptor in such a way that the patient will not go into sedation. They will go into complete respiratory paralysis kind of thing. Okay, at a very high dose, GABA, what you call barbiturates will cause respiratory paralysis because of excessive depression of the neuron. The neuron will not fire at all. That is what happens at very high doses, and the difference between its high dose and normal dose is not a lot. That is why barbiturates are not used a lot. Okay. As such, it will cause CNS depression, it will cause sedation and hypnosis, and specifically it will decrease REM sleep. Okay, yesterday I told you to go over the cycles of sleep. This fellow will decrease the REM sleep duration, and uh, it will get pushed into your what you call daily routine as well, in the sense that you will start seeing some of the effects of barbiturates when you are awake. Okay, you will have drowsiness, you might have hangover. You literally have hangover, like after you drink alcohol, what kind of hangover you have, वैसा hangover रहता barbiturate से. You might have a headache, and residual sedation occurs. Sometimes memory and attention impairment does occur with these. All right, though it can be used as an anticonvulsant as well. Pentobarbital, phenobarbital being the main drugs in this. In your CVS, this fellow will slightly decrease BP, but if you give a toxic dose of barbiturates, it will cause significant fall in BP, and it will decrease myocardial contractility, wherein overall what do you call cardiac output will decrease and your vasomotor center gets depressed. So your BP will sharply fall if you give a very high dose of barbiturates. So you have to be very, very careful with barbiturates as such. Okay. One specific or one indirect use of barbiturate is it can be used in neonatal jaundice. If you remember, I told you in general pharmacology, in some in children generally, they will not be able to excrete bilirubin out properly because their liver is not completely developed. Okay, in those patients, in on those neonates, what will happen is bilirubin will start getting accumulated, which will lead to jaundice. That type of jaundice is called neonatal jaundice. In those patients, if you are giving a small dosage of phenobarbital, what happens is phenobarbital is a microsomal enzyme inducer, meaning it will increase the enzyme glucuronidase transferase, which causes metabolism of bilirubin, meaning it will help in getting rid of bilirubin. So one indirect usage of barbiturate is that you can give it in neonatal jaundice. It will increase the activity of your liver. Okay, whatever number of cells are there, let's suppose only 200 or 2000 cells are there, individual activity of these cells will increase because the enzyme they are secreting, the amount of enzyme that they secrete will increase. The microsomal enzyme will secretion will increase, specifically glucuronidase transferase, because of which metabolism of bilirubin will go up. When metabolism of bilirubin goes up, your jaundice can be indirectly treated, not exactly treated, at least managed. Okay, that is one indirect uses of barbiturates. You can also use it as a anesthetic. You can use it for anti-epilepsy. You can use it as an anti-epileptic. You can use it for sedation and hypnosis. All right. So these are all the uses of barbiturates. One second, I'll take your attendance. We have a little bit of time left.